Okay, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this evening's work session. First order of business is the roll call. So, Commissioner DeMont Davis. Commissioner Gail Hambrick.
Present.
Commissioner Felicia Franklin.
Present.
Commissioner Sana Gregory. Commissioner Gregory.
I'm here, sir.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Davis again. All right. Madam Clerk, show present except for Commissioner Davis currently. Are there any preliminary items that any board member would like to discuss that is on the May 4th, 2021 BOC agenda? All right, hearing none, we'll move to our first work session item, which is legislative update. Report given by Ohio River and Peachtree Government Relations is Howard Franklin. Is it Brandis? Brandis Parkman.
Hi there. Yes, good evening.
Good evening, Brandis.
COO and members of the commission. Thank you so very much for allowing us to revisit this legislative recap. I do have my colleagues, if you all can hear me, my colleagues are actually waiting in the waiting room. They're presenting along with us. Howard Franklin, the managing partner of Ohio River South, Don Bolia, president of Peachtree Government Relations, as well as Lauren Norton. They're all participants in this call. I'm not sure if they have access.
Yeah, we're working on it. I believe they have access at this time.
Don Bolia here, if y'all can hear me.
Good afternoon, Don.
Good afternoon, sir.
Hey, Howard's here as well. Thank you, guys.
Howard, good afternoon.
If you can hear me.
Yes, we hear you.
And then,
Okay, I think that's everyone. Laura, I'm not sure if she's in just yet.
I think I'm in now. Can you hear me?
There you are. Yes, we do. So I won't belabor this, but again, thank you so very much. We had the privilege and honor of representing the illustrious Clayton County this 2021 legislative session. This session, as you all properly noted from anything you saw in the media, was nothing short of eventful. But we did our level best to represent the county's interests across different sectors, as you'll see in this presentation. It was no surprise that election reform was going to be at the top of agenda this cycle, based on the events from last year's general election. As you guys, if anyone was paying attention, noticed that there was a major bill, Senate Bill 202, which was an elections omnibus bill. So that bill actually had a number of changes which would have an impact on your budget, an impact on personnel, and if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Chairman, you all are poised to deliver a response to Senate Bill 202 and how it would impact the county. I believe that your director and the superintendent over at Clayton County, Director Dozier, may have gone through some of the more highlights of that bill and how it would impact the county. But just to highlight a few that's more relevant and pertinent to what you all would hear about here with the commission, that's changes to the state election board. The state can now request an independent group to conduct a performance review of the election superintendent and suspend or remove that superintendent. This group, is important to note, will also be made up, however, of county officials. Other examples in which the changes could impact your budget is the mandate that new precincts would open in a county as large as Clayton County. If your wait times can run longer than an hour, which you could potentially see those types of wait times, you're required to hire more staff or split the precincts. Elections offices can no longer receive direct grants from third parties. However, the county may distribute those grants to individual election offices. Also, the lawmakers must be notified before the Secretary of State enters into any settlement agreements for elections lawsuits. We saw a number of lawsuits be presented this past year. Obviously, that would have an impact again on your operations and any type of exposure and the cohorts that you would have in terms of, reducing or increasing any budget allocations toward those types of suits. There are multiple changes to ballot tabulation times and the absentee ballots, which you guys have probably heard that with regard to absentee ballot requests, it was cut down more than half to only 11 weeks. The return deadline is now 2 Fridays before Election Day. There were some positive changes in that you can begin processing earlier, but you cannot, the county cannot begin tabulating earlier. And again, these are just some of the high-level changes and more notable changes that you all would notice. Going forward with regard to any changes to the way the elections are handled. So the other item that was key in an early passage at the state legislature was the COVID-19 liability exemption for businesses. It was a simple change in that it was extended to July 14th. Any business operating in Clayton County, or the state of Georgia rather, also has exemption from any liability claims brought by individuals that have COVID, say their employees or anyone in their business. One notable change, if you guys have heard about this, is the daylight savings time. We will no longer be falling back this fall. We'll continue on with the daylight savings times. I know some individuals would be, ecstatic about that change from a personal standpoint, but of course this would impact businesses in the state of Georgia, of course county operations as well. This was signed by the governor just last week.
Hey, before Brandon goes on, can I just ask, are you guys able to follow with the PowerPoint? I'm only asking because we can't see it on our screen, but if you guys can see it, then that's fine.
No, there is no PowerPoint present on our screen.
Apologies, I've just been sharing, and let's see if I can actually share my screen now. If I have permissions to share it, I will share my screen.
Yeah, I didn't want you guys to think we were just we were just going off the cuff here. We presented a PowerPoint. One thing worth noting is going back to Senate Bill 202 that Brandon mentioned is obviously the effects of the bill were actually bifurcated. There were a number that took effect immediately after the governor signed the bill, which obviously happened during the General Assembly, but there are a number that also won't take effect, some provisions that require some additional changes until the traditional date for bill to take effect on July the 1st. So we're following that really closely. I know that there's already litigation that's been proposed around several provisions of the bill. So I know that the county and plenty of other counties across the state are concerned about the fiscal impact and the impact on citizens. That's something we'll continue to watch and to be a part of. And I expect that there'll be plenty more news made around Senate Bill 202 before July 1st and after. Brandon, I don't know if you have the permission to share or not. I still
Yeah, we are working on that currently.
Okay, perfect, awesome. There you are, Brandon.
Oh, there you are.
Okay. Hello again, everyone.
Hey.
Let's see, I'm selecting the share screen option, but it's still disabled.
In the meantime, while we wait, may I ask a question?
Absolutely.
Of course.
Okay. Just a quick question in regards to the daylight saving times. How will that have an effect on the time, considering if other states do not pass a similar bill?
I can say it won't have an effect. I believe that there are 1 or 2 other states, you all correct me if I'm wrong, who do not currently observe a time change. So with the governor's signature, I believe that we will, go on and roll that out immediately. But I'm unaware of any other impacts to other states other than, other individuals from outside of the state who visit our state.
Okay. The reason I ask is because it's come up from a couple of people who do travel, considering that we have the world's busiest airport. And as we know, time in the United States has always been Central Standard, Eastern, whatever. But the point is, in other countries where they've made these changes, they made it throughout the country, not just within an individual state. So that's why I asked that question.
Of course, this is Hambrick. I'm sorry.
Commissioner
Go
Hammer.
ahead.
Okay, Hambrick, and I have a question and comment regarding that. And, Commissioner Franklin, we're the second busiest now. We were the first, the number one.
Thank you.
busiest there.
Thank you.
But, on that daylight savings time now, please correct me. I thought that even though the governor signed it, but until something's done on a federal level, it will not take effect.
Yeah, that was my understanding as well. Basically, the legislation allows the state to move away from or to no longer observe daylight savings time. I believe there is a decision point at the federal level before any actual impact to how we keep time in the state of Georgia would take effect as well. I know this is one of those tricky issues that exist between the state legislative space where we're responsible and between the federal space where you guys have another firm that's in Washington, D.C. working these issues. But if it's helpful, we'll certainly double back with Shauna and make sure that we've got a comprehensive answer that takes into consideration the decision that was made here at the state level and any pending decisions that have to be made at the federal level.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you both for that clarity.
Yeah, thank you for the question.
Yes, absolutely. I'm still attempting to share my screen, but if it's okay with you all, I'll proceed. It may be a little difficult for my fellow presenters to follow along at the moment.
Yeah, if you would, in the
I'm going to
interest
try
of
one
time.
additional time.
Yeah, in the interest of time, let's proceed on as they try to work through that. And if you would, just make your presentation available to the commissioners after today, that would be muchly appreciated.
Absolutely, will do. So I'm going to discuss some of the public safety legislation that was passed and public safety policies. House Bill 286, which was dubbed the anti-defunding the police bill. It states that any county that cuts police department budgets by 5%, any greater than 5%, could be penalized. And but actually there was an exception to this case in a case of revenue loss. But you could, in other words, have your general budget reduced by 5%, but it could not be a specific line item cut to any police department budget. The next is House Bill 479. This is an overhaul of the citizens arrest law. This was in response to the events last summer surrounding Ahmaud Arbery. But as you all know, the governor signed this bill, which negates any citizen's arrest of any other citizen. It does not, however, preclude something that has already been long-standing with regard to any citizen's arrest made by, not citizen's arrest, but shopkeepers, or obviously any public safety arrest. Another notable public safety change was the passage of House Bill 534. This is in response to street racing. It increases street racing penalties and expands the definition to include reckless driving or laying drag. This also makes organizing drag racing a misdemeanor offense now.
Brandon, I'm going to go briefly back to something you mentioned on House Bill 479 on citizens arrest. I don't believe it has been signed yet, and the word that we got as of today was that Governor Kemp is looking at the logistics for signing it in Brunswick, where Ahmaud Arbery was slain. So my understanding is that may happen in the next 2 weeks. And as you guys all know, the governor has until May 10th to sign or to veto legislation. And after May 10th, anything he has not signed or anything that's not vetoed automatically becomes law and typically goes into effect unless otherwise stated on July the 1st.
Very good point. I actually also, right, and going back to the police funding bill, there's actually a new provision which provides an amendment that allows public safety officers to have insurance reduced from their pay to cover any lawsuits that they may face from any citizens.
I think I'll take over from here, Brandis, on Department of Health and health issues. And there were a couple bills that I think will be of interest to the commission here. Probably the one that we were watching most closely, working in close concert with Clayton County Delegation Chair Representative Robert Bernardo, was really on opposition of Senate Bill 256, which did indeed fail. And essentially that piece of legislation would take from counties the ability to assign and to choose their own health directors and give that responsibility to the state. I know that a number of other counties, as well as ACCG, rose in opposition to the legislation, so we are excited that we were able to stop it in 2021. So, want to note that any bill that's introduced in this year's session is still live and could be considered for 2022. The other two bills that we wanted to lift up were positive bills. The first one was House Bill 163, which implemented an express lane enrollment in Medicaid. And essentially what it does is it makes children who are recipients of SNAP or those EBT cards basically automatically eligible and I believe entered into the Medicaid enrollment process. So shortens the process of paperwork. It makes it easier for those families to enroll their children in Medicaid. And then Senate Bill 46. Expanding the administration and vaccinations basically allows for first responders, folks like EMTs and firefighters who otherwise hadn't been deputized or given the ability to administer vaccinations, now having the ability to do so. So those are two positive wins and hopefully one piece of legislation that we won't see again in Senate Bill 256. Vance, I think you're next with funding.
Thank you, Howard. Yes, so we've got HB 81. This is a supplemental midterm budget. Of the 2,000 plus bills that are properly dropped, each legislative session, only 100 or so are passed or signed. But the budget is the one thing that's actually constitutionally mandated for both houses to pass and sign, and they did so. And of course, this includes, budget funding that pertains to the county in terms of health care, school education funding, so on and so forth. House Bill 511 is the dedication of a 9-county trust fund. This actually goes back to the Hazardous Waste and Solid Waste Trust Fund and mandates that these are utilized for their intended use. As you know, you collect funding from the tire recycling program, and the landfill at Hastings Bridge would likely benefit from being able to have continued projects, remediation projects, and management projects based on the Hazardous Waste and Solid Waste Trust Fund dollars being dedicated to their intended use. The next slide, Howard's going to discuss the airport revenue sharing. Go ahead, Howard.
Yeah, so there were quite a few pieces of legislation introduced. A number of them were refiles from the 2020 legislative session. I can run down the bill numbers, House Bill 151, 642, and 643, as well as 269. And all of these, as you guys are very well aware, this has been a multi-year advocacy priority for the county. It's one we are enthusiastic about jumping into with the sleeves rolled up and both feet in. As you guys are aware, the process for amending anything that's going to have fiscal impact for the state is typically an arduous one. I think we did actually make some progress here, even though it's not reflected in the legislation that was put forward. We do have, and I think Don and Laura may have shared this earlier, a new chairman of the House Ways and Means Committee, Chairman Blackman. He, through advocacy of our team and willingness to meet with and support Clayton County, has shown a willingness to help us resolve this issue with the city of Atlanta or the Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport. And so while these pieces of legislation, which are still or do still remain live for the 2022 session, didn't make much progress this year, I do think we have a willing ear in the House Ways and Means Committee, and that is, the first mountain we're going to have to climb in order to get a real hearing and real progress on this particular issue. I will note that a couple of these bills approach making the county whole in different ways, and that did pose a number of questions from Chairman Blackman and other members of the General Assembly who are interested in resolving this long-standing issue. So that one of the things that we're interested absolutely in is working with the delegation, getting one clean piece of legislation that the entire delegation can put their stamp on and stand behind, and then using that as a vehicle to we're able to push forward going into 2022. So we look forward to doing that work. I know this is a high priority for Clayton County.
Yeah, let me just add, now, when you say Clayton County, I just want to make sure that everybody is clear, collective Clayton County. So we're talking about the school system, all of the major stakeholders. We all are working together, the delegation, this commission board and so forth, to make sure that we are looking at all the possible ways of collecting additional revenue or a revenue at the airport. So I appreciate y'all working this area and staying on top of it. Yes.
And thank you for shouting out the other stakeholders who have been a part of this process. They have been absolutely helpful. Also, I'd be remiss not to shout out federal representation who's been watching where federal legislation might intersect with the request we made of the City of Atlanta, Hartsville, Jackson, and the General Assembly. So, again, I know that we say this all the time, but the General Assembly gaveled out on March 31st. We'll be working the remainder of this year to make sure that we have an even more successful General Assembly in 2022.
Right.
Moving on to taxation, this is a bill that I'm very familiar with and been working on for the last 3 years. House Bill 317 is also a big win for Clayton County. It's basically a short-term rental legislation. It's companion legislation to a bill that was passed last year, actually, that will allow for platforms that do business in the state of Georgia to collect the appropriate taxes and fees that otherwise had not been collected, and make sure they're remitted to the proper places. House Bill 317 basically means that short-term rental platforms will be required to collect and remit both the hotel motel tax that goes to support all of the promotional activities around the Convention and Visitors Bureau and all the marketing dollars that continue to attract people to Clayton County. So that's a big win, in addition to the $5 fee, which was a part of House Bill 170 4 years ago, 2016. That's part of a $1 billion annual infrastructure investment for roads, bridges, and the like. So both of those are going to be big wins for the state of Georgia, and definitely bringing us in line with many of our neighbors in this region who have figured out how to collect and remit taxes on short-term rentals. So definitely a big win.
Okay, and this is Laura. I think I'm going to take a couple bills on this page. So HB 150, this bill prohibits a local government as well as also state agencies from adopting building codes that are based solely on the source of energy. And this bill, it really stems from a national issue, which there's been about 40 cities across the country that have banned gas in new construction. And this has been done in an effort to encourage clean energy. It hasn't been done in Georgia yet, so this was, and with this bill, it prohibits it. So the bill is on the governor's desk. HB 244, as the threat of flooding is something that just continues to persist and worsen. And this bill helps local governments to mitigate the impacts of flooding by making existing tax revenue available for flood reduction projects and policies.
I think I have the next couple of ones. Senate Bill 236 codifies an order that was provided during the pandemic to allow restaurants to provide go cocktails. I think restaurateurs found this as a way to increase revenue when their customers had gone into a lull because of the pandemic. So they wanted to continue that. House Bill 273 is very similar to a bill we saw passed a few years ago dealing with brewers. This allows distillers to manufacture and sell and also give samples to customers on site. This is something that had been prohibited through the 3-tier laws. So this is the exception to that law. And I think a lot of cities and counties have found this as a way to encourage development, and especially in downtown areas where you might have more of a tourist type feel, and this is a draw for that type of development. And I think Laura has the last one.
Yep. So SB 49. This is a bill that comes from a bill that was passed in 2019 that allowed an owner to go to a private company for plan review or for inspection services if the local government could not perform the service in a timely manner. Well, SB 49 takes this one step further, and it codifies Governor Kemp's executive order from March that allows owners to go straight to a licensed engineer or architect to perform these services, whether or not the local government can perform the services. Under SB 49, the owners still have to pay the local government 50% of the regulatory fee. And this executive order was established to assist owners with just continuing to move projects forward when local governments were closed down or not at full capacity. And this bill basically just cements that into law.
Thanks, Donna and Laura. So on to any policies that pertain to courts. One in particular that stood out was House Bill 218. This requires probate courts to remain open even during emergency executive order calls. And obviously this is again in response to the shutdown last year in which individuals could not obtain weapons licenses or permits. So this would require probate courts to remain open. Even in the case of an emergency executive order to shut down the courts or the government centers. So Don is going to talk to you all about our overall effective advocacy for the 2021 session.
Absolutely. So Howard mentioned it. You know, we've developed a really great relationship with the New Ways and Means chairman. He really sees things in a different way, and I think he really values local governments. So, you know, by leveraging that relationship with the city of Atlanta and with meetings that we've had, it really has shown the power of what one legislator can do, and certainly developing a relationship with that particular legislator, because every tax bill has to go through that committee. One thing we didn't really highlight, I did want to mention, is that the General Assembly is looking at repealing the tax abatement on jet fuel that Delta and many other air carriers have enjoyed. My understanding is it could be $30 to $50 million in revenue that would come back to local governments that's currently being abated. I think that is something that we're going to see taken very seriously in the 2022 session. And so again, that's, you know, I think this is a good evidence of working with the leadership in the General Assembly, working with both sides of the aisle to make sure we have your goals in mind and your policy matters taken seriously at the General Assembly. So we're just so thrilled to be working with you all, and we think that this is just the beginning of lots of great things that are going to happen.
Hey, Don, I'm just going to look in your mention of the jet fuel tax just now. We'd also be remiss not to acknowledge the work, not only from the school system, but also from the county manager's office. County Manager Stanford has really done a great job of not only communicating to us the conversations you guys are having with the leadership of the city of Atlanta and with Hartsville-Jackson Airport, but really enabling us to kind of make a full court press in every single jurisdiction that's available to us on this particular issue. So whether it's at the federal level, whether it's at the state levels Tom just mentioned, or even using the leverage that we've been able to roll up to get the deal that we want and can actually sign off on at the local level between governments as an IGA. I think this has been great to have everybody swimming in the right direction, and we look forward to continuing to press this issue over the summer and going into the next legislative session. I know Laura and I were going to tag team kind of, just going back to that slide for a second, tag team a little bit of the work that we've also done in front of the Department of Public Health, and I'll actually just turn it over to her to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think that we made a lot of progress at the department this year, and through personal relationships from your lobbying team, as well as just very strong leadership, the chairman and also your state delegation. We really laid the groundwork for a productive conversation, and as well as Dr. Adams. I'd be remiss if I did not mention Dr. Adams and his leadership. But the department, at DPH, they've acknowledged that we've made some progress, and Clayton, that everything's on the right track. I think our goal now is just to continue these conversations and continue the transparency that will ensure that we continue to move forward.
Yeah, so just to piggyback off of that, this is a good segue into, I think, the theme throughout the effective advocacy that we've had this past session is that working relationship with the delegation and also with the department heads. And we definitely intend to continue to, keep those lines of communication open, strategizing on how we can have the most effective policies in the best interest of the county. Certainly spearheaded by Chairwoman of the delegation, Bruno, to continue to push forward and plan for the 2022 cycle. So with that, we'll segue into what's up ahead, legislative agenda setting. If Don wouldn't mind kicking us off to talk about redistricting and the elections coming up this year.
Absolutely. So we saw the top line numbers come out, and we know which states are gaining, which states are losing. If you didn't think that having everyone count in the census was important, New York State is losing a congressional seat because of 89 people that they were short. If they had 89 more people respond to their census, they would have retained a congressional seat. So it's a big deal. As you know, what's going to happen is in August, we're expecting the Census Bureau to deliver the details in the data that's going to give you the information that the legislature needs to redraw every city council, county commission, school board, and legislative seat, as well as congressional seat. Typically, the way the process would work for Clayton County, and I'm sure you guys are already on this, but as you're talking to your GIS folks internally, and as you start getting data in from the Census Bureau, you'll know exactly what size your district should be. They do allow local districts to have a bigger deviation. They do in legislative seats. Legislative seats have to, and congressional seats have to be plus or minus 1%. Council and county commission and other seats can have a larger deviation. I believe it's plus or minus 5%. But with the data you have, you may not need to use that deviation need. I think what you're going to see is the General Assembly will probably convene sometime in September or October. And what I encourage you to do, and we're glad to help, is to start thinking about how you want their districts to look. Generally speaking, the General Assembly is going to accept what your local delegation proffers. So as long as the local delegation is good with the map that you propose, generally the entire General Assembly will go along with what the local delegation would like. They usually stay out of local races or local districts. But it's important for you to go ahead and sort of think towards how you want your districts to look, and also to be in contact with your local delegations to let them know how you're progressing as you're looking at your own maps.
Can you review the delineation difference again, if you don't mind?
Between what items, I'm sorry?
You mentioned, you said for the bigger, you said that there's plus or minus 1%.
Sure.
I was taking notes and I just missed that part.
No, absolutely. So because of lots of litigation, congressional seats and legislative seats are generally required to have a deviation of plus or minus 1%. So if you think about if a seat is supposed to have 100,000 people within the seat, that means that they can't have any more than 101,000 or any less than 99,000. And the reason for that is that when they allow a higher deviation, what you saw is, let's say there's 180 House seats, and if I'm the majority party, I make sure that the minority party has 105% of the deviation, or 105% of the total, and the majority party has 95%. If you think about doing that over 180 districts, I can essentially create more majority seats just using the math. So, because a lot of litigation over the years, they've really required that congressional seats and legislative seats be drawn with plus or minus 1 deviation. They haven't really required that for local seats. So generally speaking, when you're drawing your county commission districts, you can draw with a plus or a minus 5% deviation. So again, you can have a seat, if your ideal district size is 100,000, you could have a seat with 105,000 people in it, and the adjacent seat might have 95,000. So there's a 10,000 person deviation. My recommendation is not to use that unless you absolutely have to. There's no reason to draw it up that way. Census tracts are fairly small and easy enough to split up where you can have a deviation that's much, much smaller than plus or minus 5%.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, John, and for the question, Commissioner Franklin. That'll conclude our presentation unless anyone has any additional questions. To wrap it up and put a cap on it, I just reiterate that we're here to assist as you all have seen some of the policy initiatives that were put forth, things that have passed, and with regard to any of the county's responses, we certainly want to celebrate all of the successes of the county and the strides that have been made. So we're here to absolutely help facilitate that. And any responses to any of the legislation that would certainly have a significant impact on county operations, we're certainly here to help guide and facilitate that response as well.
Well, let me start by saying I appreciate the work that you're doing in this area for us and taking good care of our needs and concerns here in Clayton County. Let me ask this question of any of you. Have anybody or any of you heard of any of the criteria that's going to be set forth for the American Rescue Plan?
Great question. Howard, do you want to take that one? We were just wrapping.
Yeah, as we were getting on this call, I think Mr. County Manager invited us to a follow-up discussion, I believe on May 4th, about the American Rescue Plan and how those dollars might get funneled or purportedly will be funneled to local jurisdictions. I think the big news, and I think you guys are already very well aware of this, is that different than the CARES Act, the dollars here are going to local government and not being funneled through the state government in order to make determinations about how they get spent. I haven't yet heard, and I know this is a question on everyone's lips, exactly what requirements will be made for expenditure for the rescue plan. That's something we can definitely do some research on and try to come to the May 4th meeting prepared to discuss. And of course, we're happy to check in with federal representation for the county as well, because I'm sure there's chatter about what that looks like, but I know for the last couple of weeks, city administrators, county managers, et cetera, have been saying the same thing, which is not a whole lot of content on direction on that just yet.
Okay, yeah. Any information you can share with us in reference to that be greatly appreciated. I know not only Clayton County, but a lot of the other counties, if not everyone in the state, is asking that very same question. And I know it's just a matter of semantics, but we don't have a county manager, we have a chief operating officer.
Thank you. Thanks for the clarification.
Any other questions for the team? Again, sir, thank you and the team for all that you're doing for us, and we'll be looking forward to continued updates. Thank you all.
For 1 second, Mr. Chair, I was trying
Commissioner Franklin.
I just want to say thank you to this team for the amazing work that you all have done. This is my 5th year in office, and this is the most detailed reporting that I've ever seen during the sessions. And so I just want to give you guys a huge kudos, and a kudos to this board for making this decision. This is a win for us, and I'm really excited about the relationships we'll continue to forge in the future. Great work.
Thank you for that.
And please make sure that you send the PowerPoint in as well. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, let's move on to our next presentation, be the Atlanta Apartment Association presentation done by Stephen Davis, who is the Director of Government Affairs. I'm assuming he's online. Yes.
Hey, good afternoon. How's everyone doing? Can y'all hear me?
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank y'all so much. As you said, I'm Steve Davis, Government Affairs Director for the Atlanta Apartment. Is the Executive Director of Starseed. So thank y'all for having us here. Thank you, Commissioner Franklin, for allowing us to put this on the agenda for today. One of the best ways to address blighted properties in any community is through investment. And that's exactly what Starseed does. Starseed goes in, they see a community in need, they see that apartment might be run down, they go in and make the investment. They have a proven model that provides workforce housing, wraparound services, childcare, they partner with schools, and that is what they do. They are a shining example. During this pandemic, they stepped in to fill a lot of gaps that some of the localities weren't able to provide, so through rental assistance, the like. So we are great partners with them, so we're thanking them for that. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Audrey Reese.
Hello, can you all hear me now?
Yes, ma'am, we hear you loud and clear.
Okay. I'll turn my video on as well so you can see me.
All
So it's
right.
great to see you all in person. Thank you, Stephen, for that introduction. And I'd like to thank all of you commissioners for allowing Starseed to be on with you this evening and to share with you some of our work. We have engaged with you a bit before, as I will share as I get into our presentation. And I'm going to share my screen. I have some slides to show you that we can all take a look at. And I'll lead you through the discussion about Starseed. Okay, great. So Starseed, we call ourselves a sustainable education model with an affordable housing solution, which means that we like to meet at the nexus of affordable housing and use that to move the lever, as a lever, to help improve education. We do that by seeking to reduce transiency, which is the movement of families and from community to community, and as a result, the movement of their children from school to school. We are based here in the Metro Atlanta area. We were founded a number of years ago, about 7 years ago. And what we do, we partner with landlords that are committed to offering quality, desirable, affordable housing. And in that way, we seek to stabilize the families in their apartment communities and stabilize the children in their homes. If we can do that and help stop the children from moving around so much, then we can turn around their academic performance as well as the overall performance of the school. Schools do so much better when everyone stays in their seats from the beginning of the school year until the end. The children do better. Every time a child moves, they lose 2 months of learning, and we're trying to stop that cycle. So what we do is offer wraparound services. We offer a free on-site after-school program currently at several properties in Atlanta that I will describe later. It's free for residents who live there and their children. We primarily focus on the elementary age school children because we want them to have a strong foundation before moving on with their education. We offer health care and wellness programs in partnership, and you'll hear this word partnership a lot throughout my presentation. But we offer health care and wellness programs in partnership with fairly qualified health clinics, where we are able to connect the residents of these apartment communities with either free or very low cost health care that they are unable to provide, or for the cost of that health care through their insurance or out of pocket on a slighted scale. Starseed will pay for their basic health needs on their behalf via negotiating rates with those clinics. We also offer food security and community gardening programs. The community gardening program functions depending on the topography of the community, because every community is not physically set up for gardening. But our food security programs are offered everywhere we operate through our summer camps and other partnerships that provides meals to the children and to the families there. This really became important, even more so important last year with the COVID shutdown, and so many people were at home more so than they had been, especially during the day. We were able to help make sure everyone could have access to meals. And we also offer an eviction relief fund. We offer that at the properties where we operate on-site programming, but we also offer it at other properties across Atlanta. Here's some more detail about our eviction relief program. It was launched just a year ago in April of 2020, and it is again designed to help reduce the transiency and turnover by breaking the cycle of eviction-related movement. We want to help keep families in their homes who might otherwise have to leave because of issues with paying their rent. We do assist with COVID and non-related COVID hardships. Most recently, we've been focused on situations where there have been a COVID-related hardship, obviously, because that's been so prevalent. But with funding, we can assist people who may be having other issues. If they lost their job for a reason not related to COVID, they had other medical issues not related to COVID, different things like that. This fund covers a 14 county area throughout the metro Atlanta region. So far, we have raised almost $10 million and we've paid out $5.5 million. Right now, we're administering a grant in Cobb County that they recently awarded us for $4.1 million. With our eviction relief fund, we have over 330 metro Atlanta landlords who have registered. That's over 62,000 units. These are all affordable / workforce housing landlords who are partnering with us to help their residents stay in their homes. And of that number, there are 41 properties, which is comprised of 10,485 units in Cobb County. In Clayton County. Last year, we paid out $190,000 in eviction relief assistance in Clayton County. That was out of our unrestricted funds that we could pay out anywhere. We would have paid out more, but then when things shifted over to be only a COVID focus and we exhausted our general funding, we were unable to continue administering assistance in Cobb County. But how our program works, again, we partner with the landlords, and I tell you, when those properties in Clayton County understood our program, they were right on it. And I think even with the bulk of that, funding went to a few properties because they were able to submit a number of their residents. So if we ever get some additional funding that's not restricted to COVID, we will certainly be back in Clayton County offering additional assistance. Beyond the on-site assistance that we offer, we have partnerships with the magistrate court, Cobb and Fulton County magistrate courts, where we'll go into the court system and tell them about the resources that we offer. We have also liaised with the Clayton County Magistrate Court and had Chief Magistrate Court Judge Keisha Wright Hill on our panel just a month ago with all of the other Chief Magistrate Court judges in the 5 court counties in Atlanta. She was on talking about the process of eviction in Clayton County and a really innovative thing that you all are doing in the county to help people to be able to remain in their homes, how you connect them with resources and different things like that. So it was really great to see her on there being joined by her peers across the region. And she really represented you guys well and really showed Clayton's commitment, even in the court system, to helping out its residents and constituents as much as possible. Our funding property partners for the eviction relief are those that you might imagine, municipalities from across the region, United Way, Community Foundation for Greater Atlanta, private foundations, and individual donors. In terms of our on-site programs, again, this is our free on-site after-school program and summer camp. So we've been operating our after-school program in conjunction with the related school systems. So once the school systems went back to face-to-face learning, then we began to operate our after-school program on a face-to-face basis as well. Prior to that, we would help in a virtual basis as much as we could. We are gearing up for our summer camp, and we will be back in full swing, just like all the school systems will be in the fall when they go back to regular learning. Our summer camp will get started in June, of course, and then we'll move forward in the fall. We are at 4 communities with these on-site programs across the metro Atlanta area, Marietta, Clarkston, and then 2 communities in the city of Atlanta. And of course, this is in addition to our eviction relief fund that operates at over 330 properties. Here is some information about our upcoming on-site program locations, which you will note will be right there in Clayton County off of Mount Zion Boulevard. These are the flats and villas at Mount Zion. We are very excited to be working in Clayton County and working on these properties. Typically, Starseed has worked at properties that were older and had perhaps been renovated. These are new developments, as you can see, as you all on this commission board are aware of. These are brand new tax credit developments coming out of the ground, 306 units, mixed tenancy, right along Mount Zion. We are very eager and looking forward to this. This project is being developed by Zimmerman, TriStar, and Clayton County Housing Authority, and it was very strongly supported by the Clayton County Board of Education. Again, we've been in partnership and collaboration with the Clayton County Board of Education, collaborating with the principals already. We went out and met with the principals of Mountain Zion Primary and Elementary School. We had the Mountain Zion Elementary School principal on a panel of ours earlier this year. So we're just excited about this partnership and looking forward to grow and deepen. The construction on these properties will start in just a couple of months in the second quarter of 2021, and they will be finished up in 2023. This property consists of some senior living, which is for people who are 55 years of age or older. And then there is also a family portion of the development that will be targeting families with children, whose children will be enrolled at the Mount Zion Elementary and Primary School. And of course, with that, Starseed will be on site at this property, offering our free on-site after-school program, our summer camp, our eviction relief fund, of course, our wellness initiative, all of that. So this will be a great community coming into the area. We want the families who would be looking for this type of housing to move in, and for their children to be stabilized so that they won't have to go from community to community looking for cheaper rent. They won't have to disrupt their children's learning, and hopefully it would not be subject to eviction at any time because the rents are affordable. But if they ever have any sort of issues, we would have our eviction relief fund to help out in the case. So that's my high-level information about Starseed. Again, we are so excited to be partnering with you at this new development in Clayton County. And if anyone has any questions about who we are or what we do, I'd be glad to answer.
Okay, are there any questions from board members?
I do have one. You say you partner with landlords. Is that including out-of-state landlords as well? And how do you partner with them?
Right now, we're focused in the metro Atlanta area. So we are looking to grow at some point beyond the state of Georgia, but right now we're focused on the metro Atlanta area. And in terms of partnering with landlords, what we do, the landlords sign an agreement with us, and it's basically where they again agree to keep their rent at an affordable level. There's some flexibility there, but they're not supposed to go over rents that are affordable up to 80% of area median income. And then from there, they provide us with the space on their properties to operate our programs. They provide a 2-bedroom unit for our site director to live on property, which is very important to establishing those relationships and establishing community. And then they support us in helping us to engage with the residents. As far as eviction relief, they publicize the program and help us to receive the applications that are sent over.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and one other thing, don't let me forget to mention this, the landlords also pay for half of the cost of the Starseed program in most cases. So they invest in it financially, and then by providing the physical space as well as promoting the program.
Ms. Reeves, I also like to emphasize, Chairman Turner and I have been working with this developer for probably a couple of years. And like you said, it is a new project, so it's kind of like new to us with the schools. And, you know, we'll see. I guess it's we're pioneers to see how our kids gonna come out as far as academically and everything else with this project. And we've worked for everything from making sure that the kids have adequate sidewalks to walk to the different Mount Zions to get to school, as well as providing a stable stay place. So we're kind of excited about this one too. And I know you asked about landlord, that landlord's gonna be right here in Clayton, because this is our first project on doing this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, let me just add to that, the tutoring component to that, where they are going to pay for teachers from those schools to help tutor some of the students on their site. So that's great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so with the after-school program, the children will come directly from school to there will be an early learning center built on site. So it will be dedicated space for the children. They'll come over after they get out of school, so there won't be any issues with these kids who are enrolled in our program being unsupervised or perhaps being enrolling around, or perhaps being locked up at home alone, so they'll be able to come over, they'll get snacks, help with their homework, tutoring, help with their reading in particular. That's a strong focus of Starseed. Different things like that. Just being in a safe and caring environment will really help these children academically as well as with their social and emotional learning.
Agreed. Any other questions, comments?
Yeah.
Yes.
Commissioner Hambrick?
Yes, Ms. Priest, what I have found, with some of my complaints and all, I know you're talking about the newer projects and all, that's great. But the older apartments and all, I found that when there are complaints up in my area, the apartment complexes are not a member or not a part of the association. How many, do you have a count of how many older apartments are members of your group?
Stephen, can you speak to that?
Yes, hey, this is Stephen with the Apartment Association. In Clayton, we have right around 50 or so members that are part of the association, I believe. And that ranges from all classes of properties, but I don't have an exact number for how many of the older ones. But if there is a community that is ever giving you an issue, we try to, if they are a member, we try to reach out to them and talk to them. Sometimes it just takes a little peer pressure to do that.
Oh, you say if they are a member or if they are not?
If they are a member, we can reach out to them.
Yeah, usually if they are, I don't have a problem. It's the one place I've had where these folk were not a member. Oh, okay, just wanted to know.
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Franklin, you had something?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Chair, hello?
Yes, I said yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Okay, I didn't hear. First of all, thank you so much, and I'm excited about the efforts that you all have going on with the new complex. But similar to the last question, my particular concern is that the older apartments, in particular, the one that used to be a Williamsburg South, as we discussed, some of the other ones, Sherwood, and then of course Pinewood. Those are apartment complexes where we know that the landlords have just left some areas totally vacant. And so the reason that I was hoping that we could have 4C speak with us today is not only just highlight the great things that are happening that is new, but also help us in our county to establish relationships so that we can bring some of these older units up, back up to the level that they should be. Is that something that you all can help us with, or should we look in a different direction?
Well, Starseed provides wraparound services to affordable housing communities / workforce housing communities. So we do the different things that I described, like the free on-site after-school program, so on and so forth. As far as the renovation of older communities that may possibly be blighted, we can look into partnerships with that. On my for-profit side, I am a partner with TriStar, which is a real estate investment advisory firm and developer that does go out and seek to target blighted apartment communities and renovate them and bring them up to a good livable standard and make them a desirable place to live, no longer being a negative for the community, and certainly no longer being a place where people are just desperately trying to move out of. And one of the, two of the communities, in fact, where we're operating currently used to be really blighted. One of them in particular, Springview, when it was purchased, it totaled 144 units, but 92 of those were down, very notorious for crime, different things like that. We were able to come in, renovate it, and make it a very desirable and stable place to live, and of course, Starseed is operating there now. So if there's some communities like that you would like to highlight to us, certainly feel free to pass along that information. Of course, you know, it would involve trying to buy that property and different things like that with all the capital that's involved. But we would certainly like to be connected with those landlords and take a look at those communities and see what we could do.
Thank you so very much. I think that's an area that we definitely need to look into because as Commissioner Gregory stated before, we're really excited about your other projects. So I would really like for us as a board to explore the opportunity to have continued success in that area, in particular with the blighted properties.
Yes.
And then hopefully we can have a follow-up conversation, I guess, with operations. I don't know what would be the next steps, so that we can bring a plan to the board to address these issues of these blighted areas.
Mhm. Yeah, that sounds like a great idea. And, you know, what we found in our research is that just across the country, so much of the housing stock, of the rental housing stock, is really older housing stock. And if we were to just tear it all down, there's no way that we can meet the needs of housing for our citizens. But what needs to happen is a lot of this older or neglected housing stock needs to be renovated and brought back up, maintained at an affordable level, but at a desirable level, so that people want to live in communities that already exist.
Any other questions?
Thank you. I don't have a question, Mr. Chair, but I really would like to see our board move to the next steps or the exploratory process, so that we can continue to affect the areas throughout our county in a very progressive manner. So I would like to officially just make a request that we continue this conversation and actually outline what the next steps are with a timeline, if that's a possibility.
Yeah, there's makes perfect sense. So we will start working on that. Are there any other comments or statements?
I would like to make one other comment.
Yes, ma'am.
Kind of in regards to what she just said. So as Starseed and as TriStar and Zimmerman are going forward with this development in Clayton County, I just want you all to know that it is so innovative, the partnership between these developers, the housing authority, the support of the Board of Education, and of course your support as a Board of Commissioners. But that partnership and collaboration is so innovative. It's being held up as a model as we go forth into other areas to talk about what's being done. In February, we had at our monthly breakfast, we had the developers on there, and then we also had the administrator on your Board of Education to speak about this deal and why he supported it, and it was so well received. So I just want to just highlight that even as you continue to look for ways to improve the housing that you already have in Clayton, the innovative things that you're doing with this new development are definitely being acknowledged.
Okay. And I just want to point out one last thing. The Chief Operating Officer and his staff has been in constant talks with them. Of course, it's slowed down since COVID, but they already have been in some discussions with Tri-C or TriStar?
TriStar and Starseed, yeah.
There you go. I know I got it in there somewhere.
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you for your presentation, ma'am. If there's no other questions.
There's one more, Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Franklin.
and with all due respect, I understand COVID's here, but what do we need to do to put some gas in that car so we can get going on this? Because we get a lot of calls. I don't know about the other commissioners, but I constantly get calls on these blighted communities, and especially during COVID, as you see the number of people that this organization has helped alone, these issues aren't going to go away. So we've got to put some gas in that vehicle. And if I need to give y'all my little call, we need to go a little faster. Can we make that happen, sir?
If you need to give us your what?
And my little car, we need to go a little faster.
Like I said, we are working on it, and yes, we will give some priority to that. And just know that this isn't the only area in which we are looking at the blighted, correcting or doing something about the blighted areas. So there's a lot of brain trust that's involved in it. So thank you for your comments. All right, thank you, ma'am. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am. Let's go to trash collection presentation. Josh Lawson and Jeff Montarco, please.
Thank you, Commission, for having me here this evening. My name is Josh Lawson with Jacobs Engineering. This evening I will be presenting on a recommendation from the Solid Waste Authority Board on a trash collection option, one of which we have previously discussed. Am I driving or are you driving? So just a brief recap, you'll see here on this slide, we start off with option 4. That is a product of some previous presentations we've given to this board, where we had originally presented 5 different curbside residential trash collection options, ranging from free market, no change, all the way to a county controlled and operated full trash collection system. Coming out of those presentations and before the Solid Waste Authority Board, option 4 has been an option that has been further advanced and discussed amongst that board. The fundamental elements of option 4, which we refer to as mandatory collection with county contracted haulers, is that in this scenario, residential curbside collection would be mandatory. County would identify the base level of curbside collection services. Through an RFP process, you would contract directly with individual waste haulers. Those waste haulers would have guaranteed market areas that are divided geographically across the county. And then the county would negotiate base prices with those haulers individually through an RFP process. Oh, absolutely.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair. Are we supposed to be seeing this presentation? Because I don't.
Are we supposed to be doing what?
Is there a presentation we're looking at?
Are you not able to see anything?
Thank you. I didn't see it.
Please
Okay.
proceed.
It's not letting me drive now. All right. So in the recommendation I'm presenting tonight that is coming out of the Solid Waste Authority Board, the variations on this option would be minimum service, would be weekly household collection. There would be 4 districts. They would coincide with the commission districts. The hauler's responsibilities would include billing, bill collection, and customer service. And delinquent non-payment would be handled through the code enforcement process. So under the minimum service, basically for this recommended option from the authority, the haulers would have to be able to offer a wide range of services, from weekly curbside trash collection, minimum bi-weekly single stream, curbside recycling, on-demand services for both yard debris and bulk item pickup. However, residents would only be required to have weekly curbside trash collection services. All other services would be presented as optional, some at additional fees. Again, here for dividing the county up into service districts, this would just be based on the existing 4 commission districts. Hauler responsibilities would essentially be all the responsibilities a current hauler has in the county as it stands. They would be responsible for directly billing the residents, collection of bills, as well as fielding all customer service. As for enforcement for non-payment, with this being a mandatory program, the haulers would be responsible for identifying delinquent payments, passing that information along to the county, where code enforcement would be levied against the actual property owner. I'm going to hand it over to Mr. Murtacco here for a moment.
Good evening. One aspect that is included in this is a public opinion survey. The county has recently onboarded Zen City as a platform to garner public opinion through social media. So this is going to be one of the initial ventures we're going to have with this company to go out and poll the public on various questions that might be posed about the subject matter. So there's a couple slides in here just to give you a refreshment on Zen City and how they're going to do this. They collect data based off of race, sex, age, income, and language. The survey can generally run for a couple weeks, even though we can get it tailored to our needs, both on questions and the duration of time. Their premise is they use The methodology uses smartphones and technology, and kind of interesting, they piggyback on internet ad spaces. What this slide goes to show you is how prevalent smartphones are in our community, and how many times a day people check their phones or go online to search for whatever type of information. Obviously, just reading, news, entertainment, hobbies. I mean, it runs the gamut of potentially where they will extract their data from. Their information they've provided relies heavily on the ad network. Y'all have seen this when you look on websites, the banners that pop up, go to this website, buy this, and how the advertising infrastructure uses that to target their ads towards you. Zen City is able to capture some of that information both on a demographic level, and they're able to use it to present a survey to the user on questions that are going to be pertinent. I'm not the expert in this. I can't tell you how that's going to happen. I'm interested to see it come forward, but it's a statistically compliant survey that is going to give us back, from what they're telling us, good, accurate information of what the public is talking about in these situations. And one thing to bring up is they're an impartial organization, company that's doing this. So once we go forward with this, of course, questions will be developed and to be targeted on this trash collection thing, so we can garner public opinion and public input on the matter while we are going through the next couple steps on developing this program.
So in terms of kind of the thought process on a timeline to develop this program, just an approximate timeline here on the screen. As Jeff was discussing the Zen City survey, we're assuming about a 3-month process because there's a development of the type of questions that want to be asked and making sure the right information is extracted. And then that information can then be processed and used for decision making. We also would have the time frame to develop the actual program components and features. A lot of stuff we've talked about previously in other presentations about senior citizens and special provisions for backdoor pickup, and all the other various elements would need to be vetted out. And we're figuring that's probably about a 6-month process of interactive planning with the commission and other stakeholders. Then we would have a ordinance development, which would have to mirror up against the plan itself, followed by the RFP process in terms of soliciting out for bid, and then once awards are made for the individual districts, then estimating about a 6-month rollout process where you would coordinate closely with the awarded haulers. That time frame would involve rolling out new cans and all the other things necessary to bring that service to bear across the county. So all in all, conservative timeline, roughly about 24 months from the start of the survey. Would be an approximate timeline when you could actually see a program like this go into effect. One other bit of information just to throw on the table, and this was information coming out of the chairman's office. The city mayors have been surveyed and are open to discussions about the possibility of a county-wide residential trash collection program, so something that has not been brought up in previous presentations, but a bit of new information to add. With that, I will open it up to any questions or discussion.
All right, anybody have any questions? So, just to be clear, the next step would be the composing of the questions, I would guess, to go into the survey. And somebody, would that be your team or Jeff? Who would be responsible for getting with each commissioner and whoever else would need to be contacted to get input in terms of what questions we would need to, would want to see?
At this point, it would probably be a joint effort between the Solid Waste Authority, our staff, the COO's office, and of course the commissioners. Being, like I said, the first survey we're going to put out as a county, I'm sure we're all going to be cutting our teeth on how this process is going to work. Yeah. Of course, within city as the experts' guidance through the way. They have discussed some draft questions with me, and they have a pretty elaborate process on the human thought process on how to get accurate answers out. Again, they're a very data-driven company, so they want to make certain that questions are answered in a way so they can derive the data they need to be able to report back to us accuracy. Like I said, it's a statistically based survey, so they're going to make sure they can get what they need to get out of it, so the results will be accurate. But it's going to be a group effort going forward.
Yeah, and I know we have this tool in our toolbox, and I think we would be remiss if we did not use it to get some kind of a sample or polling from the citizens in terms of what they would like to see as well when it comes to this mandatory trash pickup initiative.
That's exactly the purpose.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Hambrick
here.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm a little worried about the way of getting the survey information out, because we do have a lot of citizens that do not have the smartphones. Some still have flip phones, and some just don't bother with cell phones at all. So, and that is quite a bit of our population that's like that. A lot of the seniors and all. But anyway, so I hope we have that in consideration. But Zen City has other means of getting information out and trying to gather survey information. And also, I'm a little concerned how code enforcement is going to levy the property owners that do not pay for the service.
Well, basically, Commissioner, I'm sorry I cut you off. Go ahead, Commissioner.
No, I was just saying, has there been any discussion as to how the code enforcement will carry that out?
Yes, there has been discussion, and again, once the haulers have identified a non-compliant resident, then that list will be sent to code enforcement, and they would go out and cite the property owner or the renter, and they would have to appear in court to pay a fine and be dealt with in that manner. Now, to accomplish this, we will absolutely have to add some more code enforcement officers. I would speculate maybe 4 more, one for each district, to help carry out the non-compliance. I mean, that's all they need to be doing, is addressing the non-compliant residents who are not fulfilling their obligation.
Okay, well,
go ahead, ma'am.
I was just gonna say, we may need some other legal assistance also, because right now, we have problems with folks that are not keeping their properties up. And code enforcement will send these, do the citations, put them on the door and that kind of thing. And I believe they end up in magistrate court or whatever. And I think a plan is being worked out, and it's working a little bit better than it has in the past. But I'm just a little concerned, and just to make sure that they will have all of the tools they need to make these collections.
Absolutely, and let's also keep in mind that this is a civil action. There's nothing criminal about not paying your trash bill. So the same actions that the code enforcement employees are taking for non-compliant grass cutters will be the same type of action that we would have to undergo for the trash pickup. Ms. CO, you have some?
Yes, sir. Commissioner Hambrick, you asked a question about individuals that very well may not have access to smartphones or the technology. We are looking at part of the survey as our contingency plan to potentially have hard copies of the survey. We talked about also utilizing the traditional means, like utilizing the water bills as a method to get surveys out. So we are looking at a multifaceted approach to address the survey area, because you're right, we might have a percentage of our citizens that very well may not have a smartphone or the technology in place. So we are looking at other ways by which we get the survey out in the community.
Okay, great, that's good. And back on this collection and all, have we just given up on the tax office?
That's not a preferred method, simply because the citizens are most definitely against us using that method.
No. I'm sorry. I mean, if they don't pay, then a lien or something is put on the property.
I think that would be something that would, as a result of going through magistrate court and being non-compliant with the judge's orders, I believe that's something that we might be able to place a lien on their properties for non-payment.
Okay. I mean, just a thought. Let me ask, has anybody studied some of these cities that have the mandatory pickup and how they collect? And do they have, how many problems do they have? Or is this something that they've already dealt with and have come up with solutions?
I can speak a little bit of that, Commissioner. Most, especially the cities here in Clayton County, most all of them retain the fee through the property tax bill. And so they leverage lien and options through the property tax office when the payment is not made. And that's their primary means of enforcement and compliance with the programs.
Okay. Thank you.
I have a question.
Commissioner Franklin.
Well, first, thank you all so much for bringing this presentation back to the board. And secondly, just to follow up, I want to ask a question on your timeline to begin with, because it seems like a little bit lengthy. Once again, I know we're government, but 2 years to get this up and running seems a little lengthy. How long did it take, like, a Gwinnett County to get up and running? I know we've used them as a model.
Gwinnett took multiple attempts and a much longer time frame.
They did?
Yes, ma'am. Okay. And our timeline is conservative. You're 100% correct. There are definitely places in there where we could tighten that up. Some of the provisions of this proposed plan from the authority board actually simplify some of the process and pull some of the time out, specifically going with commission districts as opposed to designing districts based on traffic patterns and major road arteries. So provided that decisions can be made early in terms of what the elements of the program need to include, and the survey data comes back clear and concise on the direction, I believe that schedule could be cut notably.
Would it be fair to say 18 months to 24?
I think it could easily cut back by 6 months, yes. I think the longest time frame in there is going to be the RFP process. I think will consume the biggest chunk of the time. And some of those things could be run concurrently.
Right, because I don't want to stray away from the fact that the bottom line is, for whatever reason, this has been contentious among the citizens, but we want a problem solved. But I'm a huge believer that we have to do the things that we need to do to resolve the problems. And as we see, as I think it was referenced earlier, many of the cities, all the cities in Clayton County already have trash pickup. So we're only talking about the unincorporated portions of Clayton County. But with that being stated, I think that the time period to get the feedback is a little bit, can be a little bit tightened. And then with that, if we're going to go out with a conservative effort to really hear back from the community, then I think that we need to really put some effort in that, not just letting it, sit on our page. I know as a county, we've done this before, but with over 289,000 citizens, I would like to see a little bit more effort in that. Maybe we could be a little bit more innovative on how we reach the citizens, as it's already been referenced. The other.
You cut off, Commissioner. We can't hear you.
Oh, if you could just put your screen back up, if you don't mind, from the timeline, that portion of it. And while you're pulling that back up, I do want to state that I think in order, from what I'm looking at, in order for this to truly work, we have to have that ability to make sure that those owners are paying. Because the issue is not those residents that are responsible, but it's those folks that are owning properties that may have some renters in the property, or they may just not be in the state, the owner's not here. Those are the ones that we're really having the issues with. So just if we don't add that vehicle or the means of being able to add that fee to the taxes for them in particular for non-payment, I feel like we miss an opportunity to ensure that we have great success with this program. And I think that was it. I just wanted to look at your information just to make sure I didn't miss anything.
Well, they will send the PowerPoint out to us as backup, Commissioner.
Wonderful. And I just want to make this statement to the public, if I may. Georgia is, and Commissioner, correct me if I'm wrong, we have been #1 in business. Many states don't even have this conversation. We're trying to play catch up in a lot of areas in the state of Georgia, in some instances, and in particular in Clayton County when it comes to trash pickup. I know people feel like it's my right to have anyone pick up our trash. At the end of the day, if we do this the right way, we will see that we're already spending this money on trash pickup. And we will also see that there will be less traffic on our roads. If we can do this the right way and implement it, it will be a big push. And of course, it's a hard push for some of us. But at the end of the day, we have to ask ourselves the question, do we want to resolve the issues in our community? Or do we want to just keep talking about the issues? And trash pickup is a major issue. And to be quite honest, in many other states and other counties, this is something that is no longer a conversation. These decisions have been made 10, 20, 30 years prior. So I'm all for hearing from the public, but the bottom line is, I don't know about you, but the complaints on the trash from non-responding property owners, those complaints are going to outweigh everything else. And I don't know how we're going to collect feedback from people who aren't doing what they're supposed to do. I don't know how we're going to do that. So for me, this is one that I'm just ready to move forward on as soon as we can. And even if we got to put a provision in there that if you have over an acre of land, you can have whoever you want pick up your trash. But for zoning that's on quarter-acre lots, we can't keep having several trucks going up and down our road.
Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, I do have one. The Zen City application, I've done some brief surveys with my district on trash pickup via Zoom. And I'm wondering, can that Zen City app fit within Zoom to begin to do some of that with? In fact, and Mr. Matarko, in fact, I can send you some of my questions that I've already submitted to mine and gotten feedback on.
Commissioner Davis, yes, they can use multiple platforms. What they end up doing, they use what they call geofencing. So they will geofence the whole county. So only applicants or the actual smartphone application would be picked up within the jurisdiction of Clayton County. And so we can target specifically certain types of technology in the community for them to give us the statistically valid survey that Director Matarko was talking about.
Great.
But they can use multiple platforms other than just the smartphone. You can look at Zoom and some other means to which we can push information out.
And my thought with that is that will begin to circumvent those that don't have the smartphones.
That's correct.
With that technology. The next part of it is, well, it's kind of a statement and a question, but this is a three-pronged approach to me. To go ahead and have everybody with residential trash pickup does not clean up our community. It begins to assist in getting us there. But we still have commercial, and we still have simple drive-by trash throw out of the windows. So I guess, what do we begin to do to put all of this in one room? I know it's not, we got many buckets there, but one room.
Well, hopefully part of the survey, to your point, if the survey is conducted the right way, we can extrapolate additional information to answer other questions other than just the mandatory trash collection component. So we're hoping that we can conduct the survey in a way that gives us answers to other questions we may have.
Great. Thank you.
And let me just mention, we just can't stop here either. Once a plan, either way it goes, is comprised and rolled out, whether it's rolled out or not, we can't stop by just worrying about the trash pickup. We must implement some kind of an educational plan to work with letting the children in this county know, growing up at a very young age, the importance of not littering and keeping their community clean and having pride in the community as well. So I think that's an important component as well.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to step on your
Commissioner Frank.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
That's a great point. But as a mother of 2 kids in Clayton County Public Schools, I just watched them finish a class on the importance of not littering in their community, picking up trash, and then also making sure that they recycle, how they recycle. And yet and still, I have kids in the neighborhood that still throw it out. Education is the key, but at the end of the day, we got to deal with the elephant in the room. So I thank you so much for bringing that up. And I think a lot of times we assume that some things aren't being done. But we have an educational system that gets 62% of our taxes, 62 to 63% of our taxes. And they are doing a jam-up job on educating our children. And that is a course that they do teach and they go through, and also through the Water Authority. They teach that and they go through it. I've participated in a stream cleanup with Clayton County Water Authority on several occasions with middle schoolers, and they're continuing to do it. In some instances, even in the middle of COVID. So we can continue to partner with them on that, but as a government entity, we are responsible for infrastructure. And we've got to make sure that we're using our street sweepers. We got to make sure that we're getting the trash up, and we're holding these property owners responsible that are not picking up the trash. So thank you for that, but I just wanted the board to be aware of what is being done among 55,000 students in Clayton County.
Yes, and I appreciate your input on that as well, but it is incumbent upon all of us, not just the school system or the water authority, to do our part. And that's simply what I'm saying is we need to continue to do our part as well as the school system. So we are on the same page. Any other questions about the presentation? Thank you. Let's move on. Thank you, Josh and Jeff. Next presentation will be CCPD Quality of Life Initiative presented by Chief Roberts.
Good evening, Chairman, Board of Commissioners. Thank you for allowing me a brief moment to make this presentation. And it aligns perfectly with the conversation we just had about trash pickup. Of course, we won't be talking about specifically the police department and trash pickup, but it is a quality of life initiative through partnership with other county entities in reference to removing residential and common public space area trash. So as soon as it's loaded up, I'll move forward. As I said, the police department, in coordination with our partners in the county, have established an initiative to enhance quality of life in residential and common public spaces throughout the county. Our partners in that endeavor, the Clayton County Court Administrator's Office, who will be providing resources in the way of probationers, misdemeanor probationers, and our public safety partners, the Department of Corrections, who will provide code enforcement to assist us when we schedule our initiatives. How will it work? Our Police Department Community Affairs Unit will use our robust database of neighborhood watches and homeowners associations to coordinate organized beautification projects in their communities. That beautification project will look like removing trash and debris from the entrances of subdivisions, from the common areas such as playgrounds within those communities, and roadways within the designated community. That being said, there has to be some buy-in from the community, and if we move through our neighborhood watches and HOAs, the expectation from the police department is that a neighborhood watch or HOA president will coordinate members of that community to come out on the scheduled dates and take half of the community, the areas I described, in reference to pickup, while the police department coordinates our probationary resources to do the same, ultimately doing a clean sweep of the residential areas in that manner. Additionally, our code enforcement partners have agreed to either simultaneously or prior to the scheduled date do a code enforcement blitz so that the residences in the designated communities know what they need to do to bring their properties into compliance if there are any code violations. I've added 2 police officers to our community affairs unit to coordinate these initiatives. Each officer will coordinate 2 beautification projects per month using the misdemeanor probationers I described earlier with mandatory community service requirements. They'll be provided PPE and cleanup materials, and at the conclusion of each project, they'll sign out with the designated community affairs officer documenting and confirming their community service completion. And how do we track our performance, our success? That community affairs officer will go out prior to the initiative date, photograph or video the community in the state prior to, and do the same upon completion. And what we hope to see is a cleaner community that we will display on our social media platforms and through email blasts to include Channel 23 as the community of the month. And with that, our goal is to encourage all of those communities in our database to participate in similar fashion. Timeline. Start date, May 15th. Very simple, easy, and this whole initiative was born out of a brainstorming session with the CEO and the Quality of Life Task Force when he asked, what else can we do with the resources we have access to now? And this is what we can do, and I'm going to make it so. Questions?
Love it. All right, let me start off by saying thank you for this initiative that you and the COO's office have been working on. I think it's going to go a long way in helping us start cleaning up our communities. And I would just add one little caveat. If you have the officers assigned to these communities, I think this would be a prime opportunity as they have their homeowners meetings and association meetings to take a sidebar with the children to talk to them about littering and so forth, that each officer could say a few words to them or hand out literature just to make sure that they understand what you are doing with the probationers is very important work in terms of cleaning up the community and neighborhood. And hopefully they'll be out there helping out as well, the children, that is. Are there any other questions?
Just picking down my notes.
Huh?
Great job, Chief. Thank you.
Good job, good job.
Thank
All
you.
right, thank you, sir. We appreciate you. All right, so any announcements from any commissioner? Hearing none, we stand.
Wait. I'm sorry, I'm trying to unmute. We're having a builders and developers reception this Thursday from 5:30 to 7:30 at the Flint River Community Center. They're in our brand new Black Box Theater. We're going to continue to put a focus on redeveloping not only the Flint River area, but that entire corridor. And I'm excited about that, so I just wanted to make that announcement. And thank you to everyone that came out to the Flint River Community Center for an opening. Even in the rain, they showed up. It was absolutely beautiful. And then one other quick kudos. Chief, I want to say thank you for your speech at the funeral, or not funeral, this live celebration of life for our amazing Armando Mendoza. I thank you for that, and I'm hoping that as we continue to clean up our communities, that we'll continue to give out awards, hopefully. I know within each district, we have a lot of residents that, and HOAs that already organize cleanups. So it's always good to, have a concerted effort from the county level particularly, but I know that in every district, we get calls all the time when we participate with our folks, and we want to make sure we shine a light on those that are already doing the right thing and give out those awards.
Anybody else? All right, we stand adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.